Hey, howdy, hey, villains with very bad, flawed plans. Yeah, what's wrong with you guys? Wolfman 47 Dasher. So, yes, there are lots of villains out there. Some have great plans, some have bad plans, some have flawed plans. And even if there's like some of the greatest villains out there, their plans may not be that all that great. And even some of the worst villains out there have great plans, but yeah. Basically, what I'm trying to say is every villain, as far as I can tell, does have their own plans for what they want to achieve. That's very evil and so forth. Ooh. But despite how great these villains can be, a lot of their plans are kind of daft or whatever, not really all that smart and do have their flaws. So today I'm looking at 10 great villains that have flawed plans. Some of these villains are quite well known, and then there's a few I've included on here that are not as well known, depending on which fandoms that you like and so forth. So yeah, let's get to it. So first up, Voldemort. Now, when people think about characters that are trying to conquer the world for their own goals, Voldemort's plans aren't really that spectacular compared to the likes of, I don't know, Darth Vader, for example. Like, it's all about this boy that's meant to be the chosen one that he's trying to kill. And in the Goblet of Fire, he had an opportunity to kill Harry Potter. So as we know in Goblet of Fire, they had the Triwizard Tournament, and the whole tournament was made in such a way that the first two tasks would remain unaffected, but then the third task, which is like the big maze task, Mad-Eye Moody, who obviously is Barty Crouch Jr. in disguise, thanks to the Apologies Potion, excuse me, decides to put the cup into the maze, but not without sort of enchanting it so it can be a portkey. Said portkey would allow the person that holds the cup to be transported to the graveyard where Tom Riddle, aka Lord Voldemort, is well, his families are buried there, basically. So what happens? Harry and Cedric find themselves in the graveyard. Cedric is killed because he's just a spare in Voldemort's eyes, and Harry is captured. And the overall plan is that Wormtail would go about ensuring that Voldemort's resurrection goes without a hitch, which means getting bone of the Father, flesh of the servant, and blood of the enemy. Blood of the enemy being Harry. All those three things together, and Voldemort is resurrected. And then what would happen? And then the plan would be after that Voldemort would kill Harry, and then as a consequence, and sort of make his body sort of be transported back to the maze as a result of consequence, rather of the games, rather than making out that Voldemort actually did kill him. And that's kind of where the plan is kind of flawed, because first of all, let's remind ourselves that Voldemort isn't aware that Harry is a Horcrux, and Harry himself isn't aware that he is a Horcrux either, or doesn't even know what Horcruxes are at that point. And by doing that, it's kind of a bit risque and everything, and that the whole plan was flawed from the get-go, because as soon as Cedric arrived, Voldemort had no choice but to kill him. So yes, he did kind of sort of go through with the plan, but ultimately Dumbledore eventually did find out about it and was convinced that Voldemort had indeed returned, whereas everyone else was not convinced. And of course, having a portkey being enchanted would have to been okayed by Dumbledore as well. So there is that. So yeah, Dumbledore was already aware, so it's kind of flawed. I mean, there's probably others that would probably explain it better, but yeah, that of all the things Voldemort has done, that is one of the big flawed plans of his. So yeah. So next is Syndrome. Now, Syndrome is a very sympathetic villain because he was once a big fan of Mr. Incredible, but Mr. Incredible rejected his proposal to become his little sidekick, all because he didn't have powers. So in an attempt to try and be better than Mr. Incredible, Buddy, as he was known back then, grew up, became Syndrome, got a vast amounts of money, and had his own private island where he would work to build gadgets and gizmos to make sure that every person in the world can become superheroes. The only problem is the plan that he had in mind to become his own superhero is to do an elaborate big spectacle where he'd be fighting a giant robot, the giant robot in question being one of his own creations, which he controls using a remote control. And as such, the robot sort of malfunctioned and sort of rebelled against him and everything. So yeah, his plan backfired. But he kind of but when he does this, it's kind of a case of he just forgets that he is actually trying to make all these gadgets and gizmos for every human in the planet, so that everyone can be super and no one else, so that everyone can be super basically. So yeah, that's that one. So I'm gonna go over a few villains now that whose plans were failed by the fact that they were gloating. And the first of these is Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy. So Ronan, as we all know, is one of those few characters that was initially sent out by Thanos to find the Infinity Stone for him, but ultimately betrayed him for his own goals. As a result of having the whatever stone it was, I actually forget which one he has. He plans his invasion of Alexander, which the Guardians managed to stop him from doing with some help. But as they feel everything's victorious and everything, Ronan actually comes out of the fight unscathed, and it's here where he starts gloating. And because of this gloating, it gives Star-Lord a chance to Star-Lord a chance to sort of tell the Guardians to go grab the stone while he distracts Ronan. And it's one of those classic times where you got a villain that has that typical trope of having this monologue saying how great and powerful he is, how everybody's lost to him and everything, and then Star-Lord just doesn't give a shit and it's just like, dance off. And then eventually Ronan realizes what's going on, and it turns out the Guardians can harness the power of the stone because Star-Lord just happens to be part Celestial. So yeah, that led to his downfall. And it's one of those times where villains shouldn't really gloat, because once you're gloating, it means that you kind of fail, because it gives the heroes an opportunity to strike. So yeah, so that's that. Second villain to be gloating is one that you probably don't know that well, and that is Count Rugen from The Princess Bride. Now, Princess Bride is one of my all-time favourite films growing up. It's funny, it's funny, got a lot of great one-liners and everything, and there's just too much to like about it. And Count Rugen, it turns out to be the guy with the various number of fingers, who was responsible for the death of Inigo Montoya's father. You all know the classic line where he goes, "Hello, my name's Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." And he keeps saying that as he's fighting this Count dude, and eventually Inigo Montoya is kind of at the point where he's getting close to death's door, and Rugen has an opportunity to strike him down and actually take that chance to kill him, but no, he just gloats, giving Inigo enough time to sort of build up the strength to strike him down. So yeah, another time where you just need to stop gloating basically. And the third person I'm going to talk about that gloats is Khan. Yes, of course, Khan from Star Trek. Khan! That one. Now he's an interesting villain because he's not only the main villain of the second feature-length Star Trek film, The Wrath of Khan, but he has appeared on the television series as well. So it makes him unique in the sense that he's been on the big screen and the small screen. And in the film, the Enterprise is struggling to sort of take him down, but then there's like this point where Khan is doing this big "you lose" kind of speech, which distracts him enough for a small team from the Enterprise to lower the shield. And I'm only saying this based on what I remember from the film. It's been ages since I last saw the film, so if I get it wrong, I apologise. You can correct me in the comments. But yeah, they lower the shield. His shields get lowered. The Enterprise gets the upper hand, and you kind of all know what happens from there. So yeah. So next villain is a villain that I guess you could say, doesn't reveal himself as the main villain until much later in the film, and that is Judge Doom from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, in the film, we hear that Bob Hoskins' character has had a brother who was killed by a Toon, and throughout the film we kind of get the idea that he finds Toons to be quite untrustworthy, and then we get to the final sort of clash against Judge Doom, where Judge Doom is sort of killed by a steamroller, or killed so we think, and then it's revealed that he is a Toon. So at that point, it's kind of implied that everything that happened was because of Judge Doom. Like the whole killing off Eddie's brother was his idea, and that a plan to wipe out Toontown to build a highway and other things could only have been conceived by a Toon, Judge Doom. So it's sort of true. So I guess in this way, his plan isn't flawed as such, but his true identity is kind of revealed by the fact that his plan is very much a plan that only a Toon could have come up with. So it kind of fits, but yeah. Still though, very good villain, and definitely one that will scar a lot. Did scar a lot of people for life for sure. So yeah. So moving on to video games now, and next we come to the Elusive Man. So the Elusive Man, as we all know, is one of the main antagonists of the Mass Effect trilogy, and I do mean trilogy. And when I say trilogy, I obviously mean the trilogy involving Shepard. We don't count Andromeda for reasons. And Elusive Man says in Mass Effect 3 that he has plans to sort of try and control. They thinks the Reapers should control the Reapers. And what happens throughout the game is karma hits him hard, and what he thinks is him trying to control the Reapers ends up being the other way around. The Reapers control him, and it's kind of implied that the Reapers are controlling him based on the fact that as you get towards the sort of controversial part of the game where you have to pick between 3 or now 4 different endings, he was actually close to becoming one of the Husk enemies, Reaper enemies that we come across in the game, just by looking at him. So yeah, karma hit him hard. He thought he could control the Reapers ended up controlling him. So yeah, his plan failed right from the start there. Now, Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik, whatever you want to call him, he's well known for being a mad scientist, has a high IQ, and has all these massive robots, plans and everything, but always gets thwarted by Sonic. And it's not just the one time his plan gets foiled by Sonic, it's actually almost every single time that gets foiled, apart from the times where Eggman is forced to team up with Sonic because there's a much greater enemy that they must face. For example, in Sonic Heroes, where he has to fight a much more evolved version of Metal Sonic, and then another time in Sonic 06 where wherever the character is, Elias kills Sonic, and Eggman feels that this creature's far more powerful than he can comprehend, so he's forced to team up with Sonic's allies. So where am I going with this? Basically, Eggman's arrogance is the reason why many of his plans are foiled by Sonic, because he thinks he has all the power in the world and is able to do all these big, crazy, wacky things to try and dominate the universe, but ultimately fails every single time because he is arrogant. And as pointed out by the guys that do Death Battle in the Death Battle between him and Bowser, he is too reliant on his enemies, whereas Bowser's the opposite. His allies are too reliant on him. So yeah, Eggman does have plans that would work well, but the only reason they don't work is because of him being so arrogant and just not kind of realising that his arrogance gets the better of him. So yeah. So now we come to an interesting villain called Homelander from The Boys. Now, obviously, Homelander is meant to be this big, great superhero that's meant to sort of be the embodiment of Superman and Captain America. The only problem is that he's too unstable. By which I mean he always kills people that are terrified of him. He will never kill anyone that actually stands up to him, but he will always kill people that are terrified of him. And he's too unstable to the point where he just cannot maintain a sort of composure that on camera. But yeah, he's kind of a bit of a menace, and I actually do wonder how the boys will end. I know in the comics it's implied that Black Noir is the main antagonist, and truthfully, in the end, and Homelander reluctantly gives powers to whoever the main character is, played by Carl Urban, to kill him. But who knows what will happen in the boys? But yeah, Homelander is too unstable to be what he is, and that's the reason why he has all these plans of his often fail. And finishing off this video, we come to probably the most complicated one, because when it comes to anime, there's animes that are not too complicated, but a lot of them are very complicated and complex. So you have to be ready for that. But anyway, Frieza. Frieza is of course one of the main antagonists of the Dragon Ball franchise, and I fondly remember growing up when Toonami was a thing. That Frieza was there was a big story arc on Dragon Ball Z. Frieza was the main antagonist, and Goku was fighting him to the point where he would ultimately kill him. And I think I saw two different arcs, because there was one where Frieza tried to destroy the planet, but Goku managed to make enough energy to sort of stop him and wipe him out completely. And then there was another time where he was resurrected still in his true form, and Goku managed to wipe out much of his body. So he was basically afloat until only his shoulders and his head were there. Yeah, some of the stuff I watched growing up was a bit more messed up, and I'm actually glad that there was this article in a magazine at the time that was trying to sort of explain if these shows are appropriate for people of my age. Now, obviously, when Dragon Ball Z was out at the time, I was kind of already in my teenage years, so it was okay for me to watch it, because I kind of understood everything and so forth. But it is what it is. So yeah. But basically, what happened to Frieza was he never had a contingency plan for his ultimate downfall, and that's what led to, well, his ultimate downfall. They just didn't have a contingency plan, or so we think. Now, and that concludes the video, and I'll just make it clear that a lot of these are based on memory alone, and some stuff I did have to look up on Google to sort of double check that it's all correct and everything. But yeah, much of this is memory alone. There's probably some stuff I have got wrong, so if I have got it wrong, I apologise. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. And also, I'd love to hear what you think about these villains with their floor plans, and also other villains that you think I should have mentioned, because I'd love to hear what you think about those. So yeah, but other than that, thanks so much for watching. Like, share, comment and subscribe if you can, please. Those who are new to the channel, I do vlogs like this, talking about all sorts of different topics that interest me, and I do that every Thursday. Every Monday and Tuesday I do a gameplay video which is just a series of videos for 4 long games that I alternate between. Every Wednesday I'll do a Let's Play video where you hear me talking and so forth, and it's usually just the one game, and then I don't play it again, or do play it again, we'll just see. And the rest of the week I do videos with friends, funny shorts, reviews of things I've seen, played, read, or listened to recently. What else? Funny shorts, I did mention that. Videos with friends, hauls, and rants on life as well. See you in the next one. Peace to you all, and remember, if you are a villain and you have a plan, make sure the plan goes off without a hitch, and make sure it's a perfect plan. Nothing's gonna happen. No heroes will rebel or anything. Just get it done with and everything. Because otherwise there'll be people out there that'll be sort of questioning your decisions and so forth, and be like, yeah, there's a problem here, and here. So yeah, right. Doodles.